The History of Russia, Parts 1 through 5, Rurik to the Revolution. Rurik to the Revolution. Alright, this is treatise number 11 of the Right to be Greedy, Theses on the Practical Necessity of Demanding Everything. We conceive, this is 11. We conceive the realized social individual, communist man, as having for his property that is for the object of his appropriation, his whole society, the totality of social life. All of society is wealth for him, his intercourse with his society, his living relations with the rest of the social individuals, and their objectification is in its totality the appropriation of social life. Productive activity becomes a form of individual consumption, just as consumption itself is a form of self-production. The activity of the simultaneous appropriation by each individual of all the rest, or of the appropriation of society by all at once. Interappropriation, realized intersubjectivity or co-property, itself constitutes the totality of social production. This appropriation by all at once of all is none other than the resonance state of egoism. Communism is the positive abolition of private property, of humane self-alienation, and is thus the real appropriation of human nature through and for man. In communist society, according to its concept, the form of intercourse becomes the total appropriation of man by man. Social individuals can appropriate one other subjectivity as subjects, and all sidely, through all the forms of human intercourse, by talking together, producing together, making love together, etc., etc., and the fruits of their appropriation, i.e. themselves in their developed richness, because thus the property of themselves and of all of society, of all the other social individuals. The fruits of your appropriation, of your consumption or physical and emotional riches is something from which I am excluded at the level of immediacy. Of immediate consumption, you eat the pear, therefore I cannot eat just that bite of just that pear. You share your love with this person, and I am perhaps excluded from sharing myself at this moment with you. But this is not at all a problem for me, for I am busy elsewhere, with the same project and praxis of self-enrichment on my own and together with others, but later immediately, when I come back to you, your appropriation and the self-enrichment you derive from it, it comes back to me. It becomes my consumption, my appropriation, in my appropriation of you. And is the richer for it today. We have to be jealous of each other's pleasures, not because our pleasures are so many and so great, but because they are so meager and so few. Here on the other side of poverty, on the other side of scarcity, my jealousy would only deprive myself. My exclusion of your pleasure would only exclude my own, and I am free at last to take pleasure in your pleasure. Whereas within the realm of poverty, your strength is a threat to me. Your development is at the expense of mine. And in general, your addition is my subtraction. On the contrary, in the society of realized wealth, your strength is my strength. The inner wealth of your being is my wealth. My property and every one of your human powers is a multiplication of my own. Thus the contradiction between my consumption and yours, between my appropriation and my property and yours, the conflict between my well-being and yours becomes its opposite, synthesis, identity, inter-reinforcement, inter-amplification, resonance. 12. The positive conception of egoism. The perspective of communist egoism is the very heart and unity of our theoretical and practical coherence. This perspective is the essence of what separates us from both the left and the right. We cannot allow its fundamental importance to be obscured or ourselves to be mistaken for either the right or the left. We cannot allow any Leninist organization to get away with claiming that it is only a little bit pregnant with state capitalism. Number 1, Wealth 13. When the narrow bourgeois form has been peeled away, what is wealth? If not the universality of needs, capacities, enjoyments, productive powers, etc. of individuals produced in universal exchange, we realize that this expanded concept of exchange may be difficult to accept for a reader whose objective life has been dominated by exchange-value relationships. However, the critique of exchange value is not to be confused with an abstract or moralistic negation of exchange itself as such. Those are the subnotes. So we'll just continue reading the subnotes, and then I'll continue on to the 14th treatise. The concept of exchange is much bigger than the concept of exchange value or quid pro quo exchange of commodity exchange relations. Exchange value exchange is a transitory and historical disappearing necessity. Exchange as such, however, is a necessity of society in general, of social existence as such, both with regard to society's relations to nature and with regard to its self-relations. The social relations proper. The labor process is human action with a view to the production of use values. Appropriation of natural substances to human requirements. It is the necessary condition for effecting exchange of matter between man and nature. It is the everlasting nature-imposed condition of human existence, and therefore is independent of every social phase of that existence, or rather in common to every such phase. Karl Marx, Capital. A Critique of Political Economy, International Publishers, New York, 1967, pages 183 to 184, see also Karl Marx. Free Human Production, Easton and Godot, Writings of the Young Marx on Philosophy and Society, Doubleday and Company, Garden City, 67, page 277. Exchange value is historically specific to a certain phase of the development of the social productive forces of the social individual. Exchange in general is historically general. Independent of any given form or stage of human society, exchange characterizes, in fact, not only the labor process generally, but every aspect of human activity, intercourse with other human beings and with nature. In fact, all interaction, social and natural, and all life processes in general, conversation, dining, sexual intercourse, and even passive contemplation of nature fall within this expanded concept of exchange, are at the very least exchange of action. Even in one-sided gift-giving, even when someone gives you an object and you give no object in direct return, let alone an exchange value equivalent in return, an exchange has taken place. Though not an exchange value commodity exchange, not an exchange of the sort which reproduces the law of value. In capitalist society there also exist various underdeveloped forms or approximations of exchange value relationships. Bartering. Even the bartering of favors, in fact quid pro quo, literally this for that, is in a society based on privatized survival a standard and a paradigm which pervades not only economic relationships as such, but comes to dominate all aspects of social life, including the most intimate personal relationship. Communist society is inconceivable with any but the most minimal marginal survivals of exchange value exchange. But it is likewise inconceivable without exchange in objects, information, energy, experience, etc., between man and between man and nature, without what Marx calls social metabolism. Treatise Theses number 14. The exchange of human activity with production itself, as well as the exchange of human products with one another, is equivalently the species activity and species spirit, whose actual conscious, authentic existence is social activity and social satisfaction. As human nature is the true communal nature or communal being of man, men through the activation of their nature create and produce a human communal being, social being, which is no abstractly universal power opposed to the single individual, but is the nature or being of every single individual